These brakes work so much better this way. You're gonna want to see this. Okay, this is gonna be a short story, but hopefully one that you don't mind. When I was in high school, Ride BMX published an issue that contained this drawing by none other than Bob Harrow. This image was burned into my brain and also introduced me to the artwork that is Bob Harrow. Always loved the characters that he draws, just these caricatures of BMX racers from like the late 70s and 80s. They're so cool. My absolute favorite illustration, undoubtedly, is this one. This one was drawn in 1977. Now there's another artist who I would consider a friend of mine. His name's Mitch, Mitchy Dagger on Instagram. He's the one who took my original Norton sketch and fixed it right up so that it's actually like a really good Norton Fiend skull, and we've made stickers with. So, when I answered a question in a past Q&A with the phrase, "Every bike is a good time," and everyone in the comments was like, "That is such a good phrase. I want that as a design, a sticker, something in the way of merch." My first thought was, Mitch would be the perfect person to do Bob Harrow inspired characters that would be riding a bunch of different bikes. And this is what we came up with. How fucking sick! Seriously. How good are these? I consider this character the dog wolf version of me. Mitch totally, completely took the task and absolutely grand slam knocked it out of the park. I'm just trying to figure out like what color background I want to do for them. I'm thinking that it'd be fun to do like pastel, like a full color pastel palette background. Maybe like the McLaren F1 team, like the papaya, like a blue, and then because I'm so into pink, like all pale colors. I don't know. What do you think? I want to get them made as soon as I can so that we can all remind the world that literally every bike is a good time. That dovetails us very nicely into today's Q&A. So as with all Q&As, if you're still unaware, I always put the Q&A prompt into the community tab on YouTube. So if you're using YouTube on your phone or something, it'll come up in your feed. You'll see it. It's usually like a picture. It was like a cute picture of Norton this time. Look at him. Isn't he cute? From Greg W. Now that you have the Trek, will the Rockhopper go back to drop bar? No. As a matter of fact, putting the bull moose bars on the track lacrosse bike was partly to free up the Easton bars that were on it so that they can go onto the Rockhopper. So I'm gonna do that right now. I just feel like it kind of needs to stay a mountain bike now. It's just so much more fun that way. I really wasn't riding it enough as a drop bar bike, but I kind of like. Better. Next question. John Hanley asks, what do you think of press fit bottom brackets? You know what, John? I never minded them when I owned them. I think I have one bike with press fit bottom. When you have the tools, they're not so bad. Can be a little noisy, so I used like a lot of grease to get them to shut up. AD Swan asks, what happened to the original drop bar Redwood? There's a few questions on here about like, would you sell some bikes? Why don't you sell some bikes? Like, if you had to get rid of some, or there's a lot of questions about like the fleet in itself in here, and I'm gonna use this question to answer all of them. So the original green Redwood I sold to an acquaintance who was looking for a bike, and that Redwood at the time was just kind of like the only bike that I had around me that was available that I hadn't completely Frankensteined yet. I hadn't done a bunch of stuff to, like the experiments weren't too in-depth. The bike was completely stock. It was in perfect working order, which is kind of not the case for a lot of the bikes in here. I tend to neglect, ride them hard, put them away wet, and you know, just overall do weird things with bikes for this channel. Part of that was also having like a really bad July in the way of uploads, like the strategy for getting videos out, or like the length that they were, whatever it was, wasn't very good, and the channel performed quite poorly, which affected my finances. And I was like, okay, you know, time to rip the Band-Aid off, sell a bike, which I don't love doing. And if I'm gonna sell a bike, it's got to be something that someone can ride and not have to worry about any sort of like weird, finicky, strange experiment that I've done. There's like a really annoying process for myself that I go through with pretty much all of these bikes. They come in, whether they're new, whether they're old, and I start doing things to them. I have ideas, I'm like, I'm gonna change this, I'm gonna do that. Sometimes it works pretty good, other times it works like just fine, but my level of tolerance for like poorly working things is quite high, and I'll ride them anyway, and I'll just deal with it. So when it comes time to like, okay, maybe I'll sell a bike, I look at everything that's around me and I'm like, none of this feels right to sell to any, like, I feel like I'm selling someone a problem, I'm not selling them a solution. So I kind of like hold on to everything. That's how I end up with William LeBron's question is, how many bikes do you really own? 18. I know it doesn't make sense, but. Son of Eastwood asks, I just bought a purple 1993 Rockhopper. WTF do I do now? Try riding it, and then put a modern drivetrain on it, and then good tires, and then it'll be like good forever. Actually, I like Mr. Kipperfish's answer below. Francis asks, have you considered making an e-bike? Francis, have I? Here, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you this is what I wanna build. This is gas powered, but yeah. I wanna build one of these with an electric mid-drive. Actually, you know what? Even a hub motor. That is what I truly, truly want. I also want something that's like maybe a little more official cargo bikey than the rack that I built for my current e-bike, but that rack system is working really good. Ben Jinx asks, what did you think of the Microshift Advent X Road group set, and would you recommend it? Yes! Yes, I would. I miss having it. Siopeo Sauce asks, mechanical cable actuated hydraulic disc calipers, overrated, underrated. I've never owned a set. I've only ever ridden on a bike that hadn't had the pads and rotors like bedded into themselves. And I was underwhelmed. J03, you seem to ride at a rather high cadence. Any specific reason, or is it just preference that you found over time? Maybe off-road I ride with a relatively high cadence, but on the road, I usually mash gears as hard as possible. Whatever feels right. And then a second question that you asked, did you get a Park Tools sponsorship? Yes. I talked about it in this video. Here's a good question from Kip CC. If you have to give up a bike from your quiver for your family member, would you give them a crappy bike or one of the best bikes you currently own? Why? Okay, so it would probably be like from the middle of the stable. I wouldn't go to like the nicest ones. I would just like, okay, this will work because I have a lot of them in there. Sierra Outdoors asks, and you don't have to apologize for asking car and motorbike questions. I love cars and motorbikes, and anytime you give me an excuse to talk about them, I'm going to. So, any plans to build up the Rabbit and goal for it? Any track content ideas? So, with the Rabbit, there's no like plans. I wanted to autocross it this year, but I do have coilovers. They're sitting in this box. I have not put them in yet. The car needs brakes and tires. But track days, not on the short list yet. My main focus, and when I was at Dave's, I asked him, I said, would this thing fit in the trailer when you guys go to the drag strip? And he said yes. So my motivation for any sort of, for racing, which is just bracket racing on this, is to take this to the drag strip each time that Dave, Clayton, and all the Custom Obsession guys head up there to actually try and go fast. I want to go hang out and also blast down the track on my garbage XS400, but there's still some work to be done. And thus concludes today's Q&A session. Norton, someone asked a question about you. They said, "Why are you so damn cute?"